Greetings to our Christians throughout the beautiful island of the Caribbean and to the rest of the world. I want to take this opportunity to share with you my testimony, and you have the right to believe or you can reject my testimony. Nevertheless, every one of us, we must tell our truth. Okay? Now, since I was a little boy growing up, I would have realized that anywhere I would have put my feet where church is concerned, that the preachers would almost want to worship me and put me on a pedestal even as a little boy, and that there was something that they could have seen inside of me that I could not have seen at the time. And so they had many great things to say to me, and many of them were saying that how God was going to use me mightily. Many of them were saying that how I was called, chosen, and so on. And even as I grew and I became older, the same thing was happening to me. And every church I put my foot in, they want to put me on a pedestal and they want to give me some high position. Even people who have never seen me before see me for the very first time. I knew that I was called out and separated, set apart, and so on. And they themselves would have said it. Okay? And they would have even told me that they see me being a nation builder and earning the respect of many people in the region and even around the world. Okay? And so I never really take it to, mean anything that much. Okay? Because the way how sometimes these preachers will act when they see me and when they speak about me is as if it's just as if they actually just want to worship me, or if they are worshiping me or something like that. Okay, it used to kind of, I would say, like scare me. I used to feel like scared. You understand? I remember one time I had an old Bible, and I was sitting in church, and the pastor came from Trinidad at that time, was an Indian man, and he said, God said to give me his Bible. He gave me a new Bible, and I had an old Torah Bible. Actually wanted a Bible. Okay? And I'm saying all of this just to lay a foundation before I go into what I really want to say to you. And so, as far back as I can remember as a little boy, I would remember many times I would leave to go to like the mango tree, to climb the mango tree to get mangoes, and my aunt would say to me, little boy, where you going? 5 persons, 6 persons already went up in that mango tree, and I sit right here on my step, and I see they go up in that mango tree, and they came down with empty hands, all of them. And sometimes my aunt would even call names. And I would say to her, I still going, I know I'm going to get mango, and I'll bring back one for you. And when I leave and I'm going, there's an intelligence within me that I used to be in touch with, that intelligence. And I believe every one of you who listen to me, if you remember when you was a little child, way back at that kind of age, you were in touch with that intelligence too. Some of you, you had imaginary, baby, you had imaginary family, imaginary cars, imaginary, anything you could think about, you had it, okay? But I would decide, even on the very limb, I would go and find mangoes, and I get mangoes, and my aunt would say to me, what kind of little boy are you? What kind of little boy? You strange little boy. What kind of little boy are you? And I think I would have even, I can't remember if I wrote it in one of my books, if I said it in a previous video before, okay? And she would marvel. Then one more thing before I go on and tell you what I really want to tell you, is that I remember that I always wanted was to ask my mother, because I never really grew up too much around my mother, okay? But I always wanted was to ask her, why is it when I was supposed to do the common entrance to go to a secondary school, I was too old, and I have no knowledge of me ever repeating at school, okay? So when I became a big man, I ended up and I had the opportunity to ask My mother told me when I was a little boy growing up, I never wanted to go to school. I would want to go under the mango trees and pick up the mangoes from under the tree and put them in heaps and leave them for people who would pass by. Then I understand that I was always this person who wanted to share, this person who always wanted to help, this person who always wanted to be of service. Okay? Which brings me to this part that I really want to testify to you about. And many of you are quite familiar with Isaiah 7 and 14, and you may have read it many, many times, and many preachers may have elaborated on it for you in many different ways. But my brother and my sisters, if you're listening to me right now, I want to say this to you. Hadn't it been that I would have given birth from the skull, I would have never understand Isaiah 7:14. I would have never really understand St. John chapter 3 either. I would have never understand the true virgin birth, what it is really all about. I would have never understand that the Bible is actually my spiritual autobiography that must be interpreted psychologically. I would have never known these things. I would have never understand that from Genesis to Revelation, it's all parables, it's all riddles, and it is all a great psychological drama. It all have to do with the human psyche. Some people, they're going to reject me, they're going to condemn me. Even those who uplifted me when I was in secular Christianity, they're going to do the same thing too. Even those who prophesied over my life and say all of these great things, they're going to do that. Okay? Because it's going to expose their comfort zone, their belief system of a man who actually literally existed 2,000 years ago, because they believe that the Bible is actually secular history. And they're taking personification for persons. And they're taking allegory for history. But only until you have the experience for your own self that you would know. So my brother and my sisters, let me go a little bit further to tell you what will happen to you when you have this great and mighty experience. There are two lights or energy that would meet at the base of your spine. You wouldn't know that it is happening within you. You wouldn't know it is happening at the base of your spine. And they will embrace each other. And before that, as in my case, the question will be asked to you, either in a dream or in a meditation, but it will come to you, be inspired to you. Faith, hope, love. And you will choose. And you say the greatest is love, charity, before you have this experience. But you will go to bed to sleep on a normal night. Everything will be normal and okay for you. And as I would have said before, it's as if you would be dreaming. And these two light are energy would meet at the base of your spine. And when that happens, then will begin the great and mighty shaking that will take place in you. It will be a great reverberating. And then you would think that it's your end, that it's your death. You're going to die. That's it. You gave up. In my case, I did that. I say that within myself. This is it. With peace, joy, happiness, I was satisfied in my death. You understand? And with a great and mighty shaking, you will hear that mighty rushing wind. And an eye, as in a single eye, as in what is written in Matthew 6:22, a literal eye would open within you. And as the lightning comes from the east to the west, so too It's like a great lightning will strike. After you hear that great blast, something explode, you wouldn't know that it is your skull. You wouldn't know it is the temple split in two. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know as you're going to approach the holy. You wouldn't understand that. You wouldn't understand that as you're going beyond your skull. You wouldn't understand that when it is taking place with you. Okay? And you would ascend like a fiery being. It's like when a rocket is taken off and there's a countdown, something like that. But you will ascend like a fiery being. And you change into another form. And come out of your skull. And there's a part of you will still remain in the skull. Like when a child is coming out of a woman, and you use your hands in that form, that kind of form, that imaginary form. And you pull the rest of yourself out. And then you will become invisible. You will become one with the wind. And you will behold your birth, like when a little child been born, with still the umbilical cord and everything still hooked up to the mother. You find yourself like that. And realize like you are in the celestial. And when you have that experience, if you would have never heard anyone speak about it before, you wouldn't know what is taking place in your life, just like I didn't know what was taking place. I wake up the next morning, was asking everyone in the house if they feel that mighty shake and that great earthquake. But they didn't. That's why the Bible says one will be taken and the other left. That's how I come to understand the eye above the pyramid and the US dollar. What does it really mean? That's how I come to understand there's a language of symbology. And that the Bible is actually written symbolically. That's how I come to realize that God and man are one. And after that experience, I start to become more intelligent. It's like my IQ lift to another level, and I start to see things differently. And I start to see the world for what it is. And I start to see all the deception. And I start to see all the system that have been put in place to keep the people in mental slavery. And that's why, my brother and my sisters, if you're listening to me, and you really believe in the Virgin Mary and Jesus story as a literal history, and you really believe a man born 2,000 years ago, that's your prerogative. But one thing I can say, just like any mortal, I would leave when it's time for me to leave. But as long as I live, there's no Christian, no pastor, none, any part of the world that can prove me wrong when I say that the Bible addresses the human mind and must be interpreted psychologically. That the Bible is not literal, neither is it secular history. My friends, if you open your mouth and speak, it has to first be a thought, it has to first be an idea, it must first be imagined. No one can write a book and it wasn't first a thought, or first an idea, or first imagined. Nothing could be invented or created, and it is not first a thought, first an idea, or first imagined. That's how I come to realize that God in man is man's imagination. And the eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself. And there is no other God. And that imagination is also the reflection of the sun, the S-U-N. That is why you're told that the Lord thy God is a sun and a shield, and no good thing will he withhold from you. Common sense will teach you that the sun has never withheld any good thing from humanity, And the sun is what powers all of humanity and give all of humanity its energy. That's why the sun parallels the human imagination parallels the sun. Without the sun, the sun, there could be no life and no light. And without the human imagination, there can never be anything made that was made. That's St. John 1 and verses 3. So when you see it's a him, that him is not a man 2,000 years ago. It's a personification of your own human imagination. That's why everything in this world, it was first imagined. And everything else that ever going to be made, it must first be imagined. That is why also, there's no S-O-N who could exist unless there first be the S-U-N. So no S-O-N could create the S-U-N. So Jesus can never be the light of the world. The sun, as in the S-U-N, is the light of the world and the giver of all life. That's why when the sun is going down into darkness, you're going down into darkness too, and you're rising up in light. You're rising back up in light too. Also, that's why in Malachi chapter 4 verse 2, you're told that the sun, as in the S-U-N of righteousness shall arise in you. Now outside of you, in you. With what? Healing. Healing in his wings. That is why this message could bring healing to humanity. I could bring hurt, envy, malice, jealousy, and all of these things. And the opposite. Because why? When a man comes to Christ consciousness, he would beat all of the thieves and robbers in the temple. Those who've been robbing you from your mental faculties. Your real temple is your body. Remember, God don't dwell in temples made of hands. Acts chapter 17, I believe. You are the temple of God. And I can go on and on and on, but there are more of this teaching I'm going to bring to you. And let me just end it by saying, through this intelligence, that's what enabled me to put books on the internet to help people all around the world and to give them a Bible without Jesus, the name Jesus, with a blank space for you to write I am or write your name, because it's all about you. For the name of God is I am. You can never say I am and not referring to yourself. Wake up. I am that. I am. Now, my brother and my sisters, remember, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You are whatever you believe yourself to be. So, I know that's a lot for you to chew on, but I want you to chew on it. If you need any more clarification, right now I'm doing my book called The Secret Vagina, and I already have a lecture on Amazon Prime called The Secret Vagina. But this whole message that I'm bringing to you and this testimony is to help you to do some research for yourself and to at least exercise your mind for once. I can't think for you, but I can help you to think, and that's all I'm trying to do by sharing my testimony. I'm going to let you know there's no amount of money anyone can give me in this world for me never to tell my testimony of my experience. I will tell of my testimony until I leave this earth. So with that being said, I want to say peace, love you all, I'm out.